Welcome back everyone to another episode of Big Red's Isopods. And this week we're going to be taking a look at one of my species of isopods that I really love and enjoy, and I think you guys will too, Procellia magnificus. So before further ado, let's get into it. Alright, first of all guys, before I get into this too much, I really want to say and stress the fact that whenever you have any of these Spanish species, the number one rule that you want to follow is to leave them alone. Today we're going to be taking a look into this container and taking a look at some of the isopods I got in here. But in reality, whenever you have any Spanish species, the best way to get them to reproduce and breed is to just leave them alone. So we're going to be taking a look in here. And I know there's going to be quite a few in here. Yep. So this is my culture of Procellia magnificus, the second largest or the largest isopod species in the world, which is one of my favorite, 100% one of my favorite. I really do love this isopod. I'll try to get one of them to come out here, maybe one of the bigger ones, kind of show you them up close. Never really held one of the larger ones, so maybe I'll start with a smaller one here. I'll make them too upset. Yeah, we'll just leave them in there. They're a really skittish species. But as you can see, they're really beautiful. That's why I really do enjoy this species as a whole. They do get really big, as you can see there. If I were to hold one of the larger ones up against my hand or hold it near my thumb there, you can see they can get up to about 2 inches long, 1.5 to 2 inches long, which is really big for an isopod. This is a male here. You can tell by his long tail there, which is pretty well as big as these guys are gonna get. The males do get a little bit bigger than the females. As you can see, there's lots of Mankai in here. And again, like I said before, I did reach into there today, but I've never done that before. And the best way to keep these guys breeding is to actually not do that. I mean, they are a really beautiful isopod, and it's really neat to see them run around. But to be honest with you, a lot of these Spanish species, they like to be left alone and just left to hang out and do whatever. There's another large one down there. As you can see, they do get fairly big, but they start out small just like any other isopod. So I'm gonna give these guys some food here. But whenever it comes to a Spanish species, especially, you'll hear out a lot out there that they like to be kept dry, but that's not true. What I found out by reading what other people have done and watching other videos is they do enjoy a really moist side. They do like a dry side as well, and I do keep the dry side a little bit drier than other ones by not adding water. Sometimes I'll add water in the middle or a little bit to the dry side to keep it kind of moisture retentive throughout it. But I keep these guys in the warmest area in my isopod room, and I always make sure to make the one side really damp but not to add any over to the dry side. So they do have that option of living in a dry environment if they so choose to, but they also need their moisture because they are crustaceans. Just like every other isopod, they need their moisture to survive. And doing that with all my Spanish species has really given me good luck, or I've had really good luck with breeding them. The Expansus was the hardest one for me to breed, but they seem to be doing well now and breeding really, really well. Same with the Magnificus here. It took a while for them to really hit off, but now they're doing great. As you can see, there's lots of giant Mankai in here running around. That's really one of the smaller ones you'll see there. And one of the interesting things about these isopods, with them being so big, is they'll take care of their young. So the females will hold their young on them for a longer period of time than other species will. And they will actually, sorry, just give them a little bit of food there. They will actually let them go out, scavenge for some food, and then they will collect up their young again and then move on to another location. So yeah, definitely a really cool isopod for that reason. And not to mention that, just the size in general. Like, I don't want to, I'll take another quick peek in here so we can take a look at them again, but I don't want to mess around with them too much. But as you can see, they are quite a beautiful isopod. They almost have like a creamsicle color, which is extremely interesting and cool in my opinion. Also, not only that, the massive size is just something you can't avoid, and that a lot of people strive to look for. Not like, because a lot of isopods are relatively small, where these guys are really big, fairly large. Just him compared to the size of my fingertip, like, you don't normally see isopods this large anywhere. It's almost double the size of a dairy cow, which is a fairly large isopod in general. Another thing about these Spanish species is that they do take a while for them to reproduce. When you first get them, you're not going to see a lot of babies. That's a female there, almost an adult female there, you can tell by the small tail. But I don't think she's got any young on her. No, I don't know. It's hard to tell, and I don't really want to mess around with them much. The Spanish species are really skittish. I can't really pick them up like you can the other isopods. One thing for sure about them is that in my opinion, these are not good at all for bioactive setup. They're really large isopods, so that means that any of your reptiles or amphibians are going to eat these isopods. I recently acquired some tree frogs, and they do eat the isopods that I put in there to be bioactive, the larger ones like the dairy cows. I haven't seen them eat any of the powder oranges or powder blues yet, or anything small like that, but dairy cows they will eat, so they would definitely eat these. And they're fairly expensive already. Like, these are a fairly expensive isopod, all the Spanish ones are, as most of you guys know. But since they're so large, they're just going to be eaten right away. They don't breed really quick. They're not a very hidden isopod. They're very large. They walk around on long legs, just like you see. It's like a giant powder orange, but it takes forever to breed, and they don't move a lot. Like the Spanish species in general, they seem to nap a lot of the time. You don't see them moving a lot unless you scare them. Like, these guys just all went back in there and they're having naps again, and this guy the entire time has just been here napping. He's not even eating the food that's right in front of him. I'm sure they might come out at night. A lot of isopods tend to be more nocturnal than they are diurnal, so I'm sure that they will all eat this food by next week. I'm fairly positive because of how many there are in here, and since they are fairly large, they will have all this gone. But they don't tend to move very much. Every once in a while you'll see one scurry around, but for the most part they just stay hidden. They sit there, and yeah. So it's not going to be really good for a bioactive setup, in the fact that it's not going to eat your leftovers from your reptiles probably. They're going to get eaten by your reptiles or your amphibians, and they're just way too expensive to be wasting on something like that. Now, as a hobbyist, yes, definitely get these isopods. These are a great isopod to have. They're not too terribly difficult. I mean, all the Spanish species are relatively hard to take care of, but as long as you do your research and you practice with a couple isopods first, I would definitely give them a go. They're a very rewarding isopod to have, very neat, and since they're so large, you can see their cute little faces and their long antennae. They have really long antennae, just like all the other Spanish species, which is so cute, and they just great addition to have. That creamsicle color is it's just so cool. So in conclusion, guys, Purcellio magnificus, great isopod for a hobbyist, great to have in your culture. Basically eats the same thing any other isopod would, maybe a little bit more in the protein, a little bit less in the vegetables, but basically the same thing you're going to feed any of your other isopods, but definitely not good as a bioactive isopod. I mean, the only way that I think it would be good is if you're just keeping isopods. If you had a bioactive setup that was specifically made for isopods, then maybe it would be good for that, but for the most part, I would say no. I wouldn't use these for any reptile, amphibian, or anything else that you're going to have. I wouldn't use it at all, just because of the fact that they're so expensive, so large, and just out there for your reptiles to eat. And it's just going to be a waste of your money. I mean, like, if you had a lot of these and then you wanted to give it a try, like if you had hundreds, then that's up to you. But personally, I don't think it's worth it. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys, and we will see you again next week.